Hey there, and welcome to Boys Love Story, where we bring you touching BL school romances that will warm your heart and stir your emotions. Each episode on this channel is a unique journey of love. Whether it's sweet, slow burn, dramatic, or healing, our stories are crafted to make you feel seen and comforted. Today's story falls into the school BL genre and is all about young love, emotional growth, and moments that make your heart flutter. Title: Borrowing His Jacket on a Cold Day. Genre: high school, slow burn romance, cold X warm personality, jealousy, drama, healing. Happy ending. So grab your headphones, get cozy, and let your imagination drift into a world where boys fall in love, quietly, boldly, and beautifully. The wind cut sharper than expected that morning. Yuto pulled his thin school blazer tighter around him as he stepped off the bus, his breath already visible in the frosty air. It was the first real cold day of the season, and somehow he had managed to leave his coat behind. Maybe it was the rush, maybe it was the chaos of transferring to a new school mid-semester. Either way, he regretted it now. He stood by the school gate for a moment, trying to steel himself against the biting cold before heading in. Students passed him, laughing, huddled in groups, wrapped in layers of scarves and padded jackets. No one paid much attention to the quiet boy with messy dark hair and trembling hands. Yuto sighed and looked up at the gray sky. Then something fell. Well, more like it landed on his head. It was heavy, warm, and smelled faintly of something like mint and cedarwood. Blinking in confusion, Yuto pulled it off to examine it. A school-issue winter jacket, but clearly well worn. There were faint creases on the sleeves, and a small embroidered patch of a basketball on the left cuff. He looked up. There, leaning over the second-floor balcony, was someone, no, a boy. His posture was casual, leaning on one elbow, a hand half raised like he was about to wave, but didn't. The breeze blew through his shaggy brown hair, and his eyes, though partially hidden under his fringe, met Yuto's just for a second. Then he turned away, as if it didn't matter. As if none of it had happened. Yuto stood frozen, the jacket still in his hands. "Did he just throw this to me?" he muttered under his breath. He clutched it tighter and put it on. It was far too big, clearly the boy's jacket, but it was warm. So warm that his fingers stopped trembling. His face flushed, though whether from the cold or something else, he wasn't sure. Later, during homeroom, he found out who the boy was. Sora Hayashi, Class 2-3, team captain of the basketball club. Known for skipping morning assemblies, always wearing headphones, and somehow being both admired and feared by half the school. A rebel, some called him. Others just said he didn't care about anything. But Yuto wasn't convinced. Not after that jacket. He told no one. He didn't even try to return it at first. It wasn't like he knew Sora. At lunch, Yuto sat alone on the rooftop stairs, the jacket folded neatly beside him. He nibbled on his rice ball, thinking, what kind of person threw their jacket at a freezing stranger and just walked away? Was it kindness? Pity? He shook his head. "No, that's stupid," he whispered, half to himself. "Talking to yourself already? School finally broke you," a voice echoed from behind. Yuto jumped. There, standing in the shadow of the stairwell, was none other than Sora. He had one earbud in, the other dangling over his shoulder. His hands were in the pockets of his hoodie, and he was chewing gum, face unreadable. Yuto's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Sora raised an eyebrow. "You're still wearing it?" Yuto looked down. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to give it back. I mean, you threw it at me. That's how you return favors around here," Sora said with a smirk. Yuto's ears turned red. Oh, right. There was a long silence. Then, surprisingly, Sora sat down next to him. Not too close, not too far, just there. As if it were the most natural thing in the world. So, Sora said, staring at the clouds. You're the new kid from Tokyo, huh? Yeah. You don't talk much. Yuto hesitated. I don't really like talking to people I don't know. Guess I should be honored, Sora said flatly. That's not what I meant. Sora chuckled softly, a sound that surprised Yuto. It wasn't cruel. It was almost amused. They sat in silence for a while. The wind was quieter up here. Yuto finally turned to him and said, Why did you give me your jacket? Sora didn't answer immediately. After a pause, he muttered, You looked like you were going to pass out. And I hate when people act like they don't see it. Yuto blinked. It wasn't the answer he expected. Thanks, he said quietly. Sora shrugged, but his ears looked a little pinker than before. Over the next few days, Yuto kept seeing Sora at the basketball court, in the halls, on the rooftop stairs. He never stayed long. But somehow, he always managed to find Yuto when he was alone. They didn't talk much, but the silences grew more comfortable. Yuto noticed little things, like how Sora always pretended not to care, but would stop to tie a junior shoelace during practice. Or how he always carried an extra sports drink for someone, even if he claimed it was, just in case. And Yuto, he started waiting for those quiet moments. Started looking for that figure leaning on the balcony or walking through the courtyard with his hood up. He still hadn't returned the jacket. He didn't want to. It felt like the only connection he had in this new place. A thread to someone who, despite everything, saw him on that cold morning. One evening, as the sky turned pink with sunset, Yuto stood alone in front of the gym. His classmates had all gone home. He held the jacket to his chest and watched the door. And just like that, Sora appeared. He stopped, hands in his pockets. You waited? Yuto nodded. I thought I should finally return this. Sora walked up to him, then looked away. Keep it, he said, voice low. It's gonna get colder next week. Yuto stared. But it's yours. Sora shrugged. Then maybe I'll borrow yours someday. There it was again, that faint smile, barely there. Yuto smiled back. For the first time in weeks, it reached his eyes. Deal. Yuto held the jacket in his arms, freshly washed, neatly folded. He had even taken the time to hand-sew the loose button on the cuff. It was the least he could do for something that had, quite literally, warmed him up on the coldest day of his new life at this school. Now, if only Sora would take it back. But every time Yuto tried to approach him, the older boy would dodge, either slipping out of class early, taking a different route to the gym, or simply vanishing the second Yuto turned a corner. It was as if he could sense when Yuto was coming. Is this him being shy? Or just really good at hiding? Yuto mumbled one afternoon, leaning against the library window, eyes scanning the courtyard. He didn't know why he cared so much. Maybe it was the way Sora had stood up for him during that awkward rooftop lunch. Or maybe, just maybe, it was that feeling, small and inconvenient, that Sora wasn't like how everyone described him. Bad boy. Troublemaker. Emotionless. None of that matched the boy who had silently tossed a jacket from a balcony. Yuto wasn't the type to obsess. He hated attention, and he preferred blending into the background. But curiosity, that was harder to ignore. Especially when Sora's name was always on people's lips, and yet no one really seemed to know him. It wasn't until Thursday that he found a clue. He'd gone to the back of the school looking for a quiet place to eat lunch, away from the noise, the forced small talk. And there, Nestled beneath the tall trees behind the gymnasium, he saw it. Or him. Sora. Not smoking. Not vandalizing school property. Reading. Yuto froze behind the tree, half hidden, eyes wide. Sora sat with his hoodie down, sun filtering through the leaves above him. A paperback novel in his hands. His brows were slightly furrowed in concentration, lips parted just slightly, as he mouthed the words to himself. He turned the page gently, like it was something fragile. Noticing the title, Yuto almost gasped. It was a translated Japanese edition of a French novel, something totally unexpected for someone with Sora's reputation. Yuto stepped forward quietly. A twig cracked underfoot. Sora's head snapped up. His expression shifted from calm to guarded in an instant. "You following me now?" he asked coolly, closing the book. "I know. I was just looking for a quiet place to eat," Yuto stammered, holding up his lunch box like a peace offering. Sora sighed and shoved the book into his backpack. "Figures. Guess this place won't be quiet anymore. I won't tell anyone." Sora raised an eyebrow. "Tell them what?" "That you read." Yuto smiled gently. "That you like good books." "Whatever." But Sora didn't move. Encouraged, Yuto sat a few feet away and opened his lunch. They ate in silence for a while, birds chirping overhead, the occasional shout from the gym far off. After a while, Sora asked, "You seriously came all the way out here just to return my jacket?" Yuto blinked. "How did you know I was still trying?" "You've been lurking. It's obvious." Yuto's ears turned red. Sora let out a small laugh, more like a breath, really. "Just keep it. I told you already. But it's yours. I have another. But I don't like things that remind me of the cold." Sora cut in. Yuto fell silent, unsure what to say. They didn't speak again for the rest of lunch, but when the bell rang, Sora didn't walk away immediately. Instead, he paused, looked back at Yuto and said, "You really won't tell anyone?" Yuto shook his head. "Not a word." Sora gave him a look that was unreadable, and then he was gone. The next few days were calmer. Yuto still didn't have many friends, but people stopped staring. The novelty of the transfer kid was wearing off. But peace never lasted long in high school. It started with missing textbooks from his locker. Then came the whispers. Barely audible, but cutting. "He's always near Sora. Maybe he's into him. Why would Sora even talk to a guy like that? He's probably faking being nice. Trying to look cool by hanging around bad boys." Yuto tried to ignore it. Until he couldn't. One afternoon, on his way to the back of the school, 3 boys from class 2 to 1 cornered him. "Hey, transfer boy," one sneered, pushing Yuto back against the wall. "Trying to seduce Sora-senpai or something?" What are you talking about? He's ours, not yours." Yuto's heart pounded. He wasn't even sure what they meant, ours? As a friend? As a crush? But before he could say anything, the tallest boy yanked his bag from his shoulder and dumped it out on the ground. "Let's see what kind of desperate stuff he carries. Touch that, and I'll break your hand." The voice was calm, low, and chilling. All heads turned. Sora stood a few feet away, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a basketball loosely. His expression was flat, but his eyes, sharp. The boys froze. "We're just joking, Sora." "I don't joke." The tallest one backed away immediately. "TCH, whatever. He's not even worth it." They fled. Yuto stood there, frozen, eyes wide. Sora walked over, crouched down, and picked up Yuto's things one by one, stuffing them back into his bag. "Why?" Yuto whispered. "Why did you help me?" Sora didn't look up. Because I hate seeing weak people get stepped on. He stood and handed Yuto his bag. That's all. But as he turned to leave, Yuto called out, I'm not weak. Sora stopped. I know, he said. But you looked like you needed someone to say that. That night, Yuto lay in bed, the jacket still draped on the back of his chair. It wasn't about the jacket anymore. It was about the boy behind the hood. The one who read poetry in secret. The one who hated cruelty but never admitted to caring. The one who didn't want to be seen, and yet somehow Yuto saw him. And now he wanted to see more. It started with a whisper, barely audible in the hallway. Did you see that photo? What? Yuto and Sora-senpai? Yeah, they were way too close. Yuto had heard his name enough times to notice the shift. At first, people just ignored him. But now, they looked. They stared. And when they thought he couldn't hear, they talked. He tried to brush it off. After all, high school gossip was just that, empty noise. But when he opened his locker and saw someone had scrawled freeloader across the inside door in permanent marker, his heart sank. It only got worse. Someone, he didn't know who, had taken pictures of him and Sora. A few of them were real. The two of them walking near the back field, sharing a bench, exchanging a book. But others were edited, photoshopped to look more intimate, more suggestive. And the worst part? They had been posted online, on a school-wide gossip account. Yuto stared at the screen during lunch, hands trembling. Underneath the images, the caption read, Looks like someone's using the jacket trick to climb the popularity ladder. Sora's fan club won't like this. The cheerleader club was buzzing that week. Especially Mio, the tall, sharp-eyed girl who everyone knew had a thing for Sora. She was always around him during practices, always trying to make him laugh. And now? She was the one smirking when Yuto walked by. Careful, she said one day, brushing past him in the hallway. Leeching off people tends to backfire. Yuto clenched his fists but said nothing. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want Sora to know. But someone told him anyway. It happened during basketball practice. Sora had just finished a play when one of his teammates, Toma, made a loud, careless comment. Hey, lover boy, better keep your new pet on a leash. Heard he's turning the whole school into his fan club. The gym fell silent. Sora dropped the ball. What did you just say? Toma rolled his eyes. Come on, man. It's all over the school page. That Yuto kid's using your name. And your jacket. Not exactly subtle. A punch landed before Toma could blink. It wasn't clean. It was messy and full of frustration, but Sora didn't care. The two wrestled, shoving and swinging, until coaches and classmates broke them apart. The next morning, Sora and Toma were forced to write apologies, clean the gym equipment after school, and receive formal warnings from the student council. It wasn't suspension, but it was serious. Still, Sora didn't say a word of regret. That same day, during third period, something unexpected happened. The classroom door of 1 to 2 slid open with a loud bang. Every head turned. Standing there, bruised cheek and all, was Sora. As Sora-senpai? One girl whispered. Without a word, Sora walked up to Yuto's desk, grabbed him gently, but firmly, by the wrist, and pulled him up. Wait! Yuto stammered, red-faced as everyone stared. Sora didn't stop. He led him into the hallway, closed the door behind them, and finally, looked him in the eyes. Yuto felt his heart pounding in his throat. I told you to ignore the noise, Sora said, voice low. I tried, Yuto whispered. But it hurts. Sora looked away, jaw tight. I shouldn't have ignored it. I saw the post. I saw your locker. Yuto blinked. You knew? I've known for days. I thought it would pass. I didn't think they'd be this cruel. There was a pause. And then, so softly Yuto almost missed it, Sora added, I'm sorry. Yuto's eyes widened. It was the first time Sora had ever apologized. Sora rubbed the back of his neck, clearly uncomfortable. Then glanced sideways. If I gave you my jacket again, he said, voice barely above a whisper, would you take it? Yuto didn't answer right away. He just looked at Sora, really looked at him. The boy who pretended not to care. The boy who fought because he did care. The boy who now stood here, trying to protect someone he barely knew just weeks ago. I would, Yuto finally said. But not because I'm cold. Sora blinked. Then why? Yuto smiled, faintly. Because it would mean you're still letting me in. Sora didn't smile, but something in his shoulders relaxed. He reached into his bag, pulled out the jacket, the same one from that first winter day, and held it out. Yuto took it. The hallway remained quiet as they stood there. Two boys with too many eyes watching them through the glass door. But neither of them moved. Neither of them looked away. The snow had started falling before noon. Flakes drifted past the windows like feathers, silent and soft. Most students huddled in the warm hallways or the cafeteria, watching the icy world from behind glass. But Yuto was outside, sweeping the courtyard alone. He had volunteered for cleaning duty after swapping shifts with another classmate. He said he didn't mind the cold. But the truth was, he didn't want to be inside with everyone staring at him. Ever since the incident with the rumors and the fight, whispers followed him wherever he went. Even with Sora walking beside him now, protecting him silently, Yuto could feel the weight of every glance, every held-back laugh, every fake smile. So he worked, head down, scarf pulled up, coat zipped as far as it would go. Though it wasn't Sora's jacket today. Maybe he didn't want to rely on it too much. Maybe he wanted to prove he could handle things alone. But the wind didn't care about pride. By the time Sora found him, Yuto was on his knees, breath shallow, cheeks pale. The broom had fallen beside him, half buried in the snow. Yuto? No response. Yuto! Sora ran toward him, slipping slightly on the icy pavement. He crouched, his hands gripping Yuto's shoulders, shaking him lightly. Yuto's eyes fluttered open for a brief second, unfocused. Cold, he mumbled, before everything went dark. When Yuto woke up, everything felt softer. A warm weight lay over him, a familiar one. The nurse's office was quiet, lit only by the soft orange hue of late afternoon sun through the curtains. On the chair beside his bed, Sora was slumped forward, fast asleep, his chin resting on crossed arms. His breathing was steady, deep. Next to Yuto, folded neatly, was Sora's old jacket, the one he hadn't worn in a while, but had kept anyway. Yuto stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, he sat up. The movement stirred Sora. He blinked awake, rubbing his eyes before looking over. You're awake, he said, voice rough from sleep. You stayed, Yuto whispered. You passed out in the snow. What did you expect me to do, leave you there? Sora grumbled, avoiding eye contact. Yuto gave a tired smile. Wouldn't be the first time someone left me. Silence hung between them for a moment. Then Sora spoke again, quieter this time. I don't like seeing you like that. Yuto blinked. Like what? Trying so hard to look like you're okay when you're clearly not. Yuto let out a small laugh. That's rich, coming from you. Sora looked at him sharply. Yuto continued, eyes now on the ceiling. I always pretended I was fine because people don't like it when you're not. They say they care, but they get tired. So I learned to smile. To say I'm okay even when I wasn't. He looked at Sora now, voice trembling just a little. I'm not cold because I don't have a jacket. I'm cold because no one ever really sees that I'm shaking. Sora was silent for a long while. Then he reached over, slowly, and took Yuto's hand. His grip was gentle. Warm. Then let me be the one who sees it, he said softly. Even if no one else does. Yuto stared at their hands. His throat tight with something he couldn't name. He wanted to say thank you. He wanted to say everything. Instead, he leaned his head against Sora's shoulder and whispered, I'm tired. Then sleep. Sora replied, I'll be right here. And he was. Through the quiet. Through the warmth. Through the snow still falling gently outside the window. The snow came down heavy that morning. Like the world was holding its breath before letting go one last time. It was the final day of the semester. The winter festival. Students buzzed around the decorated hallways, stringing lights and taping up posters. Music echoed from the gym. Every classroom was glowing with life, but Yuto only had one thought as he stood in front of his mirror at home. Should I wear it? The jacket hung on his closet door. Old. Worn. A little too big for him. But warm in a way no one else could see. Sora's jacket. The one that had changed everything. Yuto touched the fabric gently. Then, without another thought, he slipped it on. He was done hiding. The courtyard had turned white by the time he reached school. Snow blanketed everything, the benches, the trees. Even the basketball court. Students whispered as he passed, their eyes flicking between the jacket and his calm, steady steps. But Yuto didn't look down today. He walked with quiet confidence. One hand tucked in the oversized pocket, the other gripping a small folded sheet of paper. Inside the auditorium, the lights dimmed for the poetry reading. It was a tradition. Any student could step up and share a poem before the performances began. Most were light-hearted, silly, about exams or friendships or dreams. Then Yuto's name was called. The room felt quiet. He walked up the steps to the stage, each footstep echoing louder than the last. And when he turned to face the crowd, wearing Sora's jacket in full view, a hush swept the room. There were murmurs. Gasps. But Yuto stood tall. And read. To the one who gave me warmth. Not from the fire. Not from the sun. But from the quiet way. You noticed I was cold. I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know how to be seen. But you saw me. Even when I tried to disappear. So this jacket, this worn, heavy, soft old thing, became more than fabric. It became a promise. That I wasn't alone. That someone cared. That I was worth the warmth. When he finished, no one clapped. Not out of rudeness. But because the moment was too full. Too quiet. Too heavy with emotion. Then, from the back of the auditorium, someone stood. Sora. Still in his school uniform, hair slightly messy, eyes locked on Yuto. He walked down the aisle, slow but steady, until he stepped up onto the stage beside him. He didn't say anything. Just reached out, and took Yuto's hand in his. Tight. Sure. Certain. The audience murmured again. But this time it wasn't cruel. It was the kind of quiet that follows when something brave and beautiful is unfolding. Yuto turned to look at him. Sora's eyes were warmer than any coat, any scarf, any poem. They said everything he never put into words. And for once, Yuto didn't feel like hiding. After the ceremony, the snow began to melt. Not completely, but just enough that the gray slush hinted at spring. They sat on the rooftop again, one last time. The wind was cold, but bearable. Yuto leaned against Sora, jacket still draped over him. "You know," he whispered, "everyone kept asking why I wore this today." Sora looked at him sideways. "What did you say?" Yuto smiled softly. "I said, the warmest moments of my life came from something I didn't own. But now I think maybe it was never about the jacket." Sora chuckled under his breath. "That's good. Because I don't want it back." Yuto turned to him. "Why not?" Sora shrugged. "Looks better on you." They both laughed, and then fell silent again, content, peaceful, connected. Above them, the last snowflake drifted down and melted before it touched the ground. Below them, the school buzzed with the future. And between them, no words were needed anymore. Just the quiet understanding that sometimes the smallest act, like lending a jacket, could open a heart, could change a winter, could start a love story. Thank you so much for spending time with Boys Love Story today. We hope this episode touched your heart, made you smile, or even gave you a moment to escape into something beautiful. If you enjoyed the story, we'd love for you to support us by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with other BL lovers out there. Your support means the world and helps us create more stories filled with love, hope, and healing. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and stay in love.